welcome to Global Careers. In life, one of the questions which is of central and profound importance to us is the question, what do you do? Which is a question we'll be asked in the future at any number of different kinds of social interactions, at parties, or even like on the plane if you're sitting next to someone and you're chatting to them. The question of what do you do can be one that generates quite a bit of concern for the person answering the question, and even could be a question of concern, for the person asking it, hoping that they don't, put the person who is being asked in an awkward position. Because, as we know, our work identity, our career, the job in which we are employed in, is such a central defining feature of our life and our identity. And one of the things that is also, important with respect to this question is that there is really kind of no other, replacement question that is that springs to mind when you're in a social interaction and you're getting to know someone. It's very hard to, have a conversation where this question somehow isn't a question that gets approached at some point. And, one of the things that is, revealing about this is the fact that, our work and our career has such a central place in our lives as part of our identity and as part of how we find fulfillment. However, given the profound significance of work and careers to us, and given that we place so much of our future happiness in the hands of our work, we actually spend relatively little time actively thinking about the kind of work you want to do, that we want to do, or the kind of work that suits you. And this is where this course comes in. So welcome to Global Careers, Soku 1031, and this is a course that is designed to help you think about you and your career aspirations, and how to strategize now so you are set up in the best way possible for whatever comes next. So this course, Global Careers, has three underlying foundations which help us to approach the issue of careers and work that is suitable for you, and how you can start making your run and strategizing towards them as of now. So one is that we get to understand the world of work out there, as it were. So this is the world of work, and how it's changing and evolving, and the kinds of careers that exist and the kind of work that exists in the world. And so we can think of this as sort of the external environment of the work world that is out there and into which you will be entering or are already beginning your entry into. So there's the world of work out there, which is the external environment. Then the other thing that we need to approach and get an understanding of and to reflect on is where you are at. So this is sort of the internal question of you and what's going on with you and where you are at with your career journey. And here we need to address questions of things like your CV and how well prepared it is, and do you have the experiences and the things. Do you have the experiences and the skills that will be sought after, and do you know how to articulate those skills and experiences? So this is the internal, factor in the course, which we which we need to get a grip on in order to prepare ourselves for the next foundation, which is what you can do to move forwards. And so this is the connection between you and that world out there, and how we can start building those bridges and those connections and preparing yourself for a successful entry into the world of work and career. And not only just, and we're not just talking about just getting a job, although that is definitely part of the story here. It's also trying to think through in the best way possible the kinds of work that is really fitting for you and that would actually give you some level of fulfillment. So we have the external world, then we have, if you like, the internal world of you, and the very important next step where we are focusing quite a lot of our attention, which is connecting those two together, and what you can do in order to prepare yourself and to undertake those connections in the best way possible for you. And so this is really what the course is about enabling us to get a grip on all of these things to stand you in the best stead possible. So one of the things that we, I think, need to do is also kind of go beyond the question of, what job do you want to do? And part of this lecture is really about trying to partly address the question of what job, but also to try and think about the what job question a little bit differently than what you might have done. And we're going to start doing that by exploring all of this in this lecture through the prism of 5 challenges which confront us. And these are not necessarily challenges as in hurdles to overcome and negative things to address, but it's really a challenge sort of in a positive sense, that here is a challenge to you in order to prompt you to think differently or to think constructively about issues relating to you and your relationship with work and your aspirations and so on. And these challenges are intended to be helpful in enabling you to navigate your own thinking with respect to what we're in this course to do, which is to think about and prepare for the world of work. So let's begin with challenge number 1. Yeah, so the first challenge is knowing what is out there. So we might well think that we have a good idea as to the job that we want. However, we should also, I think, ask ourselves, how did I learn about that job? How did it come to pass that this job to which I aspire is presented itself to me, and how it comes to pass that it's in my mind in the first place? Because the reality also is that the world of work and careers is vast, right? So one number that I've seen as to the number of different kinds of jobs or roles that there are in the world is like 500,000, right? So, and if we were prompted to spend the next 3 hours trying to list down all the roles that we know, or we probably wouldn't even get to 1%, right, of that 500,000. And here we are, probably already with what we think is a clear idea of the kinds of jobs that exist in the world. But one of the challenges for us is to begin to expand our knowledge and acquaintance with that cosmos of work that exists, right? So, and the thing is that we are often making significant choices towards our career destinations at a really young age, right? As early as 18, when you've maybe started to choose what university you want to go to and the degree that you want to study. Or, perhaps even earlier than that, when you're deciding what subjects you're going to study in the later years of school, in years 11 or 12 in Australia. We're already making those decisions with barely any sense of the galaxy of the world that exists, world of work that exists. And also with, relatively little idea as to kind of what would suit us. So drawing on some of the, content from this week, and in particular, some of the thinking about career counselling as provided in articles produced by the School of Life, which you can look up, but is an organisation, that revolves around the philosophical popularizer Alain de Botton. And they have produced a number of articles and ways of thinking about careers that we feel is quite helpful. So with respect to this challenge of knowing what's out there, they write that it is important for you to recognize how thin your knowledge of possible occupations may be, because of the unhelpful influence of art, especially film, which relentlessly throws a spotlight in the same few places: doctor, lawyer, politician. How many people have missed their vocation because there have, as of yet, been no TV dramas set in the world of logistics? And when I think of this issue, my mind tends to go to journalism, because I used to work with in a department where they also taught journalism. And one of the journalism teachers there was like, it's no accident that so many superheroes are journalists. And, of course, Superman springs to mind. And the other one that springs to mind, of course, is Spider-Man was also a journalist or photojournalist. But, I'm sure forensic anthropology got a big boost as a result of the TV series Bones, which I don't know if it's running anymore, I suspect not. And any number of TV series, especially around medicine and so on, that really put certain occupations into greater spotlight, so that young people then have them as part of their aspirations, right? So, whereas, there is a whole universe of work that most people are not aware of, and part of our mission is to become more aware of the contents of that. And so, I'm going to end all of my 5 challenges today with, with a prompt for you to go and do something, which I hope you consider doing. And so, with respect to challenge 1, things to do. You might want to ask around your friends and family about people they know who like their work, and to ask them what they do. And if you have the opportunity to speak to these people or to anyone, not only asking them what it is that they do, but also maybe ask about what the job or jobs were that they did prior to that. To talk to them about their work journey. And so in that way, we might expand a little bit or what we can think of in terms of what makes for work and what kinds of jobs there are, and also what people find as fulfilling work. Challenge 2. Thinking about jobs differently. So when we think about work and careers, we tend to think about jobs that we think we would like. Jobs, whatever the position description or the position title is of the thing that you might imagine yourself applying to one day. But there is another approach, which is to set aside jobs as a category of thing, and instead to think about the qualities of the jobs that we think we will like or we might like. So trying to put aside the category of the job that it is that we think that we're aspiring to, but to focus our attention towards what is it about that job that we think we would like. And if we can do this, we might realize that there is a huge array of kinds of work that we might find fulfilling and that we might find suitable for our own skills and aptitudes. All right, so once again, sort of drawing on insights from the School of Life. So they write that when we properly grasp what draws us to one job, we necessarily identify qualities that are available in other kinds of employment as well. What we really love isn't this specific job, but a range of qualities we have first located there, normally because this job was the most conspicuous example of a repository of them, which is where the problem started, because over-conspicuous jobs tend to attract too many entrants and are then in a position to offer only very modest salaries. So yeah, I guess the first point there is that conspicuous jobs obviously invite a lot of attention. Yeah, so they continue to write that once scrutinized, we might find that journalism, which is their example that they're working with at now, we might find that journalism offers some of the following pleasures: an ability to engage with serious political and sociological issues, to analyze policy, to write up thoughts with elegance, and to be respected for one's critical powers. So in trying to think about what makes a job in journalism attractive to some people, and how that can then be transposed to other careers, this is what they go on to write. So, for instance, a financial investment firm might have a huge need to analyze emerging markets and explain their potential and their possible weaknesses to clients. A university might need to analyze and understand changes in the competitive environment and explain these in clear and compelling ways to its staff. An oil company might need to analyze its future likely employment needs and convey this to its recruitment teams around the world. These industries don't sit under the heading of journalism, but they all have needs and opportunities which in fact offer exactly the same pleasures which were initially and rather superficially associated with journalism. So, challenge 2, things to do. What you could consider doing is listing any number of jobs. Let's just pick a number 5 that you think you might like and enjoy, and just for the purposes of the exercise, let's just forget the issue of pay, if that's an issue for you. And once you've listed those, jobs that you think you might like, have a think about what it is about those jobs that you think you would find attractive. So try to distill out of them the qualities that you think are attracting you to them. And so therefore we can sort of begin that process of thinking about jobs a little bit differently, which is sort of moving away from quote-unquote jobs and moving towards thinking about the qualities of those jobs, right? And so that might then expand our range of what we think we might like to be looking into. Challenge 3. Working out who you want to become. So this question of who you want to become might seem like, another way of asking the question, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? What is the job? But no, that is not what I'm getting at here. So jobs require you to undertake a certain array of tasks. Obviously, if you are, again, a journalist, although I don't suspect there are a lot of journalism students here in this course, you would be interviewing people and writing it up and submitting your article to the editor and right? All those individual tasks. However, there's another sort of what I'm trying to get at with this question of working out who you want to become is that different jobs can shape the way you see and experience the world, and we ought to give this more thought than we do. So, drawing on an article by the School of Life, they refer to this as the psychological character of a particular job. And to give an example, a contrasting example, they give the contrasting examples of a dental hygienist, a dentist, versus a sound engineer. And so they write with respect to the dental hygienist. He or she might say, I deal a lot with evasion and weakness of will. Otherwise, intelligent, trustworthy people cancel on me all the time, blaming their schedules. I'm quoting here. When they do show up, they sit in my chair and they repeatedly lie to me about how much they've flossed and break all the promises they made last time about looking after their teeth. I'm daily brought up against how hard adults find it to do pretty basic things that are in their own interests. It can make me a bit stern. I'm not personally acquainted with any dentists, so I can't corroborate this fact. Or this notion. But you can kind of see what the idea is. Whereas a sound technician, a sound engineer, they write, so a sound engineer might say, problems crop up all the time, but you can always be sure you will find a solution if you are methodical and careful. There might be 7 possible causes of a problem, and you have to check each one. But it's definitely going to be one of those. I love technology in that sense. Things are bounded and logical. And you can see here in their presentation of these two different occupations that it develops a particular mindset or way of experiencing the world. One of which is potentially more frustrating, and the other one is a bit more comforting in the sense that problems always have solutions to them, right? So long as you just methodically move through them. And, with respect to the careers to which we might aspire, we might think that we might, aspire towards a career in one domain or another, whether it's law or commerce or the, development sector and so on. That's fine, that's cool. But let's also give a little bit of thought to what do we think might be the dispositions that it might develop in us. And so in their article about how your job shapes your identity, they bring out a number of aspects, some of which are, for example, does the job, cause you to be suspicious or trusting of people? There are some jobs where people might be, incentivized to try to, lie or to, hide facts from you. Whereas there might be other jobs where people are usually very upfront with you and, are very also self-motivated to tell the truth. And one of the examples of that is like an air traffic control person. I'm sure no one wants to tell lies to them because of the great gravity of the consequences. So there are different jobs that may predispose you to develop a trusting or suspicious attitude towards things and people around you. Another one is does the job likely involve consensus seeking versus your ability to just act independently? Another aspect is logical versus haphazard hierarchy. This one is probably not immediately intuitively obvious from the name that they give it, but what they're trying to convey here is that there are some occupations where you progress along your career in a fairly logical and dependable and clear way, such as, and they give the example of an airline pilot and a teacher, Whereas there are other jobs such as, and they give the example of television production and, politics or being a politician, where your progress through to becoming, famous or elected really is a large part of that is outside of your hands. And depends on luck and the decisions of other people and unpredictable things happening. Or does your job sort of dispose you towards seeing the better nature or the worse nature of humanity? You can well imagine, as I was indicating before, that there are some jobs where people are incentivized, where maybe your attention is towards the less noble parts of humanity. And which might be issues where, law enforcement might be the most obvious one that springs to mind there. So, with respect to challenge 3, things to do include reflect on the way you instinctively see the world and experience the world in terms of, the things such as what I was talking about, and think about what kinds of work would reinforce that would match the way you see the world. But with respect to the actual question of, working out who you want to become, maybe another thing to spend perhaps even more time is reflect on the way you would like to experience the world, the way you would like to see the world and humanity. And you might want to think about the kinds of work that would draw you along to develop and cultivate those qualities and those mindsets, if that is something towards which you would like to move for yourself. So that's another way we can consider looking at our job futures. Challenge number 4, working with your constraints. And the first constraint to maybe mention, and one which is probably quite near at hand to many people, is the question of parents. And as a school life writes with respect to this, all parents unwittingly or not create a sense that certain jobs are not possible for their children because the jobs are too lowly or too high, or just because people in our family don't do that kind of thing. So we can think about the scripts, and the term that you can use for this is family scripts, and just acknowledging the fact that different people who would be doing this course have grown up in different contexts. So the question of family is one that you can adapt to your own personal circumstances. But we can think about the scripts or the family scripts that we grew up with and that have shaped what we understand to be the choices our family would expect us to make.
The standard line is that they simply want us to be happy. But we are not as free as this sounds. We are always hemmed in by what can be termed family work scripts. That is, scripts that guide us, often very subtly, but also very heavily, towards certain occupations and away from others. Part of properly growing up, which may sometimes happen only in one's 50s, means learning to find a way around the scripts we've been handed. At the most benign level, our family work scripts are the result of what our families understand of the working world. Every family has a range of occupations that it grasps because someone has practiced them and in the process brought them within the imaginative range of other family members. Yet it isn't just a case that our families might not know about certain jobs and so might cut us off from them. They might also be positively hostile or suspicious of other jobs.
And, it may well be possible to be told by, our family that, to go and pursue a career that will make you happy. But at the same time, despite having been told that we should choose the career that would make us happy, we also get messages in other ways that certain career choices would also be a cause of disappointment, right? So therefore, what we're trying to understand here is the way that our sense of our careers have been shaped implicitly by those around us. Another constraint is understanding ourselves. So, although it might seem that we, of course, know what we would like to do, we sometimes don't know, and at the very least, what we might like can change. So, a good sort of metaphor or illustration of this is clothes, and you might see a piece of clothing, on the hanger in the shop, and you think, oh, that would, you really like that. But then if you try it on, or if you buy it and you try it on after having bought it, and when you try it on, sometimes you find that it just doesn't, hang well on you. It might look great on someone else. And I'm sure you've all had kind of similar experiences as well, of things that kind of you think would look alright, but then just somehow on you, they just, it's not a good match. So therefore, I guess what that point is trying to make is that there are things that we think we would be well matched towards, but actually in the reality is that we don't. And that's one of the reasons why, work experience and doing things like internships is fantastic. And, I do remember one student in the degree which I have been managing, the international studies degree, and she, started her degree dead set on being basically an entrepreneur in Japan. And then she did her internship in Japan, and she was like, oh man, this is not what I thought it was going to be, and she changed direction completely after that, which is why it's important to gain experience. Because what you think you'd like is not necessarily at all what you might end up realizing, resonates with you. So as the School of Life puts it, where your talents and aptitudes meet the needs of the world, that is the zone of our distinctive life mission, all kind of what would drive us. And discovering that is no easy task, and hopefully this course is either the start of your journey or, an important step towards that. And another kind of obvious constraint that we're all working with is the fact that the world of work is something over which we have limited control, and is also constantly evolving. So trying to keep up with those evolutions and what's changing is one of the things that kind of constrains our ability to basically decide completely for ourselves what it is that we are going to do. So, just sort of reflecting on the kinds of decisions that should drive us, but pointing towards the constraints within which we're working. In their article on career crises, School of Life, describes how a palliative nurse, that is a nurse who works with people at the end of their lives, a palliative nurse described one of the major regrets of the dying as the wish they'd had the courage to live a life true to themselves, not the life others expected for them. Which sort of brings us back to the parents. But it does also sort of point towards the fact that, those other people in our lives can exert incredible power over our decision-making. And just need to recognize that, this is good advice, but it is really challenging to follow. Obviously, the fact that people dwell on this in their dying days is something that, indicates both the importance, but also, the challenge as well. So, challenge number 4, things to do. Ask yourself, in what areas of life are you thought by your friends to be especially fussy, that you pay attention to? Treat this heightened sensitivity as a storehouse in which business ideas lie buried. Or in our particular case, these are things which you are naturally well disposed towards. So, I guess if I was to answer the question of what do I tend to be fussy about? I would be saying, for whatever reason, I am highly conscious of issues relating to time and punctuality, and therefore, had I been able to sort of think about it in my youth, I might have been able to extract that as an aptitude or a skill of mine, and to think about kinds of careers where punctuality and a heightened consciousness of time and due dates and everything is especially valued. Another idea that they suggest is, sometimes we do feel envious of people, and generally envy is not a positively connotated emotion. So you are envious when someone else achieves something that you feel, that you wish you could experience, but they say, if you do have this experience of envy, what you can do is to try not to fight it all, but actually to kind of sit with it and go, okay, you're seeing this person, that they've achieved something, and when you feel that experience of envy, you can begin to interrogate that and say, that thing which this person has achieved and is causing me to feel envious, there's something there that is potentially drawing me towards that, and I myself can work towards whatever that goal is that they've achieved, whether it's a career goal or something otherwise. Another set of challenges is to ask yourself, what is the family script that you grew up with, right? And the family script might include things that have been explicitly stated, once or a number of times, but there can also be kind of like hidden scripts as well, which you pick up on in one way or another. So ask yourself, what do you reckon that script was? And the other thing which I think might be an interesting thing for you to consider doing is if you had, a younger sibling or another sort of a family member, nephew or niece, and you were talking about careers and their aspirations and so on, what would be the kind of, script that you would be trying to, pass on to them? Would you try to be more directive, or would you try to, have a bit more of an open hand and guide them, away from questions that would drive a lot of people with respect to whatever financial pay and that sort of thing, towards other kinds of fulfillment? Or would you be trying to, encourage them towards, safer choices, or to be more explorative? Yeah, so ask yourself what kind of advice you would give to others, and that would maybe try to reflect a little bit of the kind of advice that you would have liked to receive as well. And our fifth challenge is to realize the role of luck in careers and our career journeys. And this really does come through when you talk to people who are relatively advanced in their careers. And so in this course, over the years gone by, many of the students who've done this course have interviewed people in careers to which the students aspire to. And one of the things that comes out so consistently is the way that those careers have not been straightforward, have been big aspects of the unexpected have been part of it. People have, accidentally ended up in those jobs and those roles because of some little accident of fate, of just being at a party and someone mentioned that this job was going and then they applied for it. And other elements of luck just come into it. So this is not to say that, it's all luck and there's no point trying too hard because it just comes down to luck. No. That's definitely not. That's definitely not the message here. So really bringing that sort of luck and that hard work together, and this is a theme that we're going to come back to in this course as well. And so the luck sort of plays out in so many different ways. In any position you apply for, you will need luck. You will also need to also hope that there isn't another person who is being interviewed on the same day as you, who is clearly better and more accomplished than you. That's just something that you just have to cross your fingers about. But you have to also hope that whoever is reading your cover letter and CV is in the right frame of mind and is in a good mood and so on. These are things over which you don't have much control. That on the day of the interview, you just have to hope that you had a reasonable night's sleep and that you didn't receive some bit of bad news that sort of, knocked you off your metaphorical bicycle. And if you're on the way to the interview, you have to hope that your train doesn't get cancelled, right? And if the train gets cancelled and you're running late, that's just going to, even though your interview panel might be understanding, it's going to affect your state of mind as well. Or you might get lucky in that your competitor's train gets cancelled and the cookie crumbles in your favour, right? So so one of the things that we just need to bear in mind is that it is on the one hand true that if you work hard then success kind of follows, but it's also true that that a large part of people's success stories does depend on aspects of luck that might play out in one way or another. And so we just have to kind of get comfortable with that fact that we have luck as playing a big role in shaping our career journey. But the thing about this course is that this course is really designed to enable you to stack those odds, those lucky odds, hopefully, in your favor. So in any given application, you're going to have the odds will be in your favor or they won't be. But what we need to do now is to work intelligently and also work hard in making sure that at the times that we're applying for jobs, that we do so in a smart way, and that we have all the skills and the experiences that will make us competitive, and that in any given interaction or in any given moment or any given whatever the case may be, job application, that we're doing everything that we can to stack the odds in our favor. And if we hopefully keep at it for long enough, then one of those odds is going to come through. And we really look forward to bringing this journey of global careers to you and having you join us on it.